SFJ 4x4 Studios presents
in my oversized four-wheel drive Jeep.
a Jeep podcast starring industry experts.
Pure Monosity. What? Say that again.
With mad scientist Scott Brown,
Use my drill press as a sort of lathe.
our host Neil Simpson,
If one light goes out, they all go out.
filled with shenanigans.
We are really professional with Jeeps.
This is I Speak Jeep.
This is I Speak Jeep. That's the intro said.
Hi, people.
That's how the day's gonna start.
That's how it's gonna start. We're gonna do a thing today. Oh, hi, folks. Wherever. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever, however you are joining us. We appreciate your participation. My name is Neil with SFJ4x4.com, and my esteemed colleague, host, best friend,
Mad scientist.
father,
Yes.
builder,
Yep.
house cleaner.
Oh, God. Mad scientist Scott Brown, slightly stressed from the weekend.
Six-time vacuuming champion.
Six-time floor cleaning, vacuuming champion.
And it looked worse when I got done.
of
I had a moment. My wife had to calm me down.
oh, and you know what we should do is a product review.
Vacuums.
Vacuums.
We destroy
We could
some
totally
vacuums.
do vacuums as a.
yeah.
They don't test them like we test them.
Oh my gosh!
You mean with fire?
With fire,
Maybe.
we have vacuumed fire
Or with oil?
professionally, or with oil. which vacuuming process would
Good
you
thing
like
there were
to?
separate vacuums when we did that. Oh. Could have been bad.
At this point, that would have been fun.
It would have been something to say the least.
It was a little interesting.
Folks, we thank you for joining us on your favorite streaming platform, or obviously here on live on Facebook at 10:19 a.m. Nearly every Monday of the year, and obviously on YouTube on our new YouTube I Speak Jeep channel, which will be launching very soon. We are doing that for a purpose of cataloging and inventorying our digital media content. And just so you understand that everything is going very, very well with us, both podcast-wise and company-related via the old YouTube. But we want to make sure that we kind of keep things simple and able to be found well, and the algorithm of YouTube happy. So that's why we're making that move. This is episode number 31. We are finally going to be talking about recovery stories. And we have a very special segment on the hashtag not sponsored product review. So we will be talking about that here shortly. As usual, Scott and I like to kind of check in for the weekend. Obviously, as Scott has already kind of alluded to, he's having some struggle peopling.
Yes.
We all, I think, socially, no matter where you're at in the world, are going, hey, the world's a little crazy right now. So,
Yeah, if you just hear me disappear, I'll be in my garage.
yes, yes. All right. So, and you were this morning trying desperately to find the floor in the
Yeah.
CJ corner.
Yep. There's a lot going on over here.
A lot going on, and just a lot going on in our facility in general.
Yep.
And, of course, making that really valuable balance between encouraging our customer base, not just our listeners and our followers online, but our physical customer base who wants to come in and have work performed, balancing the fact that quite frankly, we are almost booked into September.
Yep.
Like truly, honestly, paid, deposited jobs into September. And that fine balancing act of obviously trying to service our good customers, but also be like, hey, yeah, you have to wait 10 weeks. That's pretty extreme.
The thing that's crazy is people are like, okay.
That's amazing. or I'll just bring you my Jeep. And I'm like,
Yes.
well, no, wait a second. You
You don't need to.
you don't need to.
You
but
can stay at your house, please.
oh my gosh.
Parking lot's only so big.
And that's the truth. I'm talking to Jeffrey this morning, trying to figure out where we're moving vehicles. Fortunately, I think one of my big trucks is going away. Sad for me, but good for the parking lot.
Yes. That's like 4 Jeeps worth.
It is like 4 Jeeps worth. That was a cool truck. That was
Yes.
a cool truck. For those of you who have heard the stories in the past, that's a L7000, which was a Louisville cab with a Cummins 5.9 industrial, 20-foot flatbed. Pretty cool truck, but just doesn't fit in our business model right now. So time for it to go on to somebody else. And usually we do have a whole good old conversation about what down this weekend. Now we obviously know a little bit of what went down.
What didn't go down, maybe?
What didn't go down, Jeffrey?
You?
What does that mean, Jeffrey?
Your Jeep was broken.
So Chuck Norris, I don't know if it had the bridge incident had anything to do with it. Probably not.
The
I
bridge
was so
incident.
I was so distracted
bridge incident.
with cleaning my floor 6 times. I was not alerted to the fact I have this great obstacle in my side yard, thanks to Jeffrey.
That tree we cut down.
The tree we cut down.
Yeah, we actually talked
And-
about that tree a few weeks ago.
And I remember thinking I need to cut this stump down some more, but it is solid 2 foot.
There it is.
There's a picture of it. those of you who are able to view, but those of you who are listening, we have a really nice, greenery and blue sky picture with a beautiful
Jeff
blue.
looking on.
Yeah, Jeff appropriately in his blue cut-off sleeveless shirt, looking at his hydro blue truck.
And Scott in his green shirt. I don't know if you
And
noticed.
Scott in his green shirt with
was
his
not planned.
with his green Jeep.
No, it wasn't.
Oh my God!
Kristen pointed it out to me after we left. I'm like, huh.
And Scott's in his OD green, Jeff's in his hydro blue. They match their Jeeps. That is real life,
Yeah, that's-
folks. When you're listening and you're like, you know what I love? I love this podcast. We're 31 episodes in. That means we're 31 plus weeks of content specifically on this series of podcasts. And I love where people like reach out and they know about the podcast. They're like, hey, I know you're filming this morning, da 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 da. Or people like, oh, I love the podcast. I love that people are engaged with us. And yet I get this, like, are they real? Like, is that really happening? Folks, this is real life.
Yeah.
He's literally in his blue shirt and his blue Jeep, and
Yes.
Scott is in his green shirt
They're
and his
just
green
like those
Jeep.
colors.
That
That
is
stump
just-
is at least as tall as my tire.
That stump is easily 36 inches.
Yeah.
Easily.
Yep.
With an outcropping on it, so like from that direction that you're parked on it,
Yep.
it actually has like a half moon that you climb up to get on
And
that
I feel
little
like
ledge.
I have to apologize, even though my neighbor's never going to watch or listen to the podcast. I apologize for the shenanigans that happened at my
No,
The only
no,
shenanigans
no.
were the fact that Neil-
I apologize.
Neil tried to get
For
on
the
that stump
shenanigans.
for a good 20 minutes.
Oh, there was a lot of tire spinning. There's less grass to mow over there right now. That's the best part.
And I apologize that he's a good neighbor to you.
So the funny thing, he's a great neighbor, very quiet. Just what you want. I am the troublemaker, if not
It's
the
that
next door
meme.
neighbor.
It's that meme that's always like, if there's one of these guys in every neighborhood, and if you don't know who it is, it's us.
Yes.
It's us.
Yes.
That's the reality of the
yeah,
situation.
he maintains his yard impeccably.
Meticulously. Oh my God, he has a
Yeah.
beautiful yard, beautiful gardens.
Yeah, not me.
So here's the thing: you have this spectacular stump that
Yeah.
just cries out to be parked on.
Yes, and Neil was in Chuck Norris.
And I was in Chuck Norris, and I was feeling good.
Yep.
And
Riding
I
high
came in
on
riding
40s.
high on 40s. Just pulled the top off.
And
Doors
he
are
was
off.
Wasn't like Simpson late. He was just fashionably late. So it was like even right on time.
I
So
was on
everybody,
time.
all the family, all my wife's family's there to view him try to get on this
The
stump.
fail, the epic fail.
And then when I realized what he was doing, I was like, why didn't I park on that before?
Exactly.
I say, oh my God, how have I missed this obstacle in my yard all this time? And Jeff had already realized what was going on and was taking off his discos.
Jeff had run out as I was
I
I was disappointing myself in life. Well, Jeff tried spotting me on.
He
First
did.
of all,
He's a good sport.
He tried spotting me onto the tree stump. Really, the big fallback is that
You
apparently
needed a locker.
Well,
Needed four-wheel
You need
drive.
4-wheel drive.
Well, a locker would have
And-
helped too.
Well, I have a locker in the rear of Chuck, and it didn't
Yeah.
matter because both tires were spinning.
Yes.
As I just sat and ramrodded on this stump.
And then Jeff tried it with 35s, and you know how that went.
there he said it, Jeffrey.
If I would have had lockers, I think I would have made it up that. But I don't have lockers.
If I would have had lockers, I would have made
It was really funny. It was like, with the
Everybody was
electronic
worried about breaking my
gadgets,
bumper too. I don't understand that. part.
Well,
It bounces back. It's plastic.
That's what I figured.
You did say that. I tried spotting you on nicely onto the tree stump and clearancing the bumper, and it would have been fine. But lockers was
Definitely
the big issue.
required. So
Yeah.
then I put my Jeep up there. Felt all good. Proud of myself. Jeep was awesome. Left it on there. And we went about the party. Great. Pianos were, or however you say that word, were destroyed by kids.
Pinata?
Water fights happened.
Pinata? Did he just struggle with the word
Yes, I
pinata?
did.
Okay.
Anyway,
That's fine. It's all okay.
cakes were ate. Wife did a beautiful Sonic the Hedgehog cake all on her own.
She did.
Big shout
That
out.
was really cool.
Really cool cheesecake that was just delicious. All that happened. Presents were, distributed, and then it got dark. And I said, I'm gonna put all my vehicles away because they're all in the field. So I've learned from
If
prior.
this is your first time listening, when he says all his vehicles are in the field, he's not joking there either. He's not joking. There was 19 vehicles of his in the field.
Oh, stop it. Anyway, and I just leave keys in the ignition in the field because I don't. I'm tired. I don't want to go looking for 10 sets of keys. So
Oh boy. Oh boy.
I go and I move all the vehicles out of the field and I get my wife's car back in there. I was like, okay, I'm gonna get in the JK, and I get in, and just the footlights are on, not the dome light. I'm like,
That's weird.
that's weird. We're kids in here playing around, so I play with the switch. Nothing happens. Okay, put the key in the ignition, turn it on, and the temperature was on, but the direction was off. I was like, that's not right either.
Oh boy.
And I try the key, nothing happens, and all the JK lights come on. I'm like, nope,
Lights up like a Christmas
I'm
tree.
not okay with this right now.
Naughty Jeep.
So then I I just wanted off the stump, so I pulled the little tab and I try to push the park release, and it told me where to go and how to get there. And I tried pulling it out of the 4-low in the transfer case, but it's of course under tension.
It's binded. It's bound at that binded.
And it told me where to go and how to get there. And I was like, okay, I see you.
I see you, JKU. You made me look like a superstar during the party.
And if I wouldn't have had my windows down, I would have just walked away at that point.
Oh, I did not realize that your windows were down.
And the reason I don't like my windows down is because the same reason my hardtop's on all the time. So, and it doesn't help that the Jeep's at like a 40-degree angle, so the water would just run right in the passenger windows.
Right.
So I go in and I would alert my wife to the situation. And she's like, what are we going to do?
Why did you just try jump starting it?
Because of Chuck Norris when I had it.
Okay.
And I knew how Mopar batteries go. So
Okay.
what the part everybody's missing out, the we know, you don't know. My Jeep is a 2015. It had the original battery in it.
No. The best part was Friday. You literally said to me Friday, I need to test my battery because it's a 15 original battery.
Yeah.
I said, oh, are you having issues? No.
But you knew it. You
I
knew
knew
it was coming.
I have radar for
We
this.
we are industry experts for the reason, and we're like, I'm gonna be okay.
Yeah.
And just a quick shout out to Kristen, the Italian stallion Shiramonte, reloaded, and she was commenting on the adopting the words of pinata, and Chuck has said good morning Jeep fam, and Joe Harper, Jeep stay in the garages, so I leave the keys in them at home. And then the comment goes off the screen. I don't know what Jeffrey's doing.
Bad Jeffrey.
It's a bad habit. That's why I go to the store and leave the keys in the also out of habit. Yeah.
yeah, don't
See,
do that.
I think that he left the keys in it and the lights on. That's what I'm thinking. But
Yeah. But anyway, so I tell her, and I go into the garage to get tools, and she is tired and goes into the backyard in the dark and promptly steps on a stick, and it pops up, and she's in flip-flops, and it impales her toe.
I didn't know about the
Neither did I.
toe. The toe.
So at this
Impaling
point-
of the toe. I did
So
not.
at this point, she's like, "Where are you? My toe's bleeding. There's a hole in my toe." And I was like, "I'm getting tools."
After
and
a day of a party and
Oh, it was so
kids
full.
and cooking and cleaning floors 16 times.
Yes. And so I go to the Rambler that's now in the driveway, and I'm ripping the battery out of it. And she's like, well, we're just going to put that battery in. I was like, I hope so. And I climb up onto the stump, and I'm standing in my wheel, which, if you can see by that picture, is just barely on the stump.
It's
And
barely. I mean,
I'm thinking the whole time, like, the Jeep's going to
let's
show.
I
bring it
remember
back
when
up.
Jeff, put that back up. Because I love the fact that Jeff was like, do you want to pull that on a little bit more? And you're like, meh, it's good. it's got a whole 3/4 of an inch of contact.
Oh, yeah. So I'm standing in the wheel in the dark. And I'm like, because I can't see it. It's like, it's okay. I just won't step off.
That's
that
right.
point.
You just, because you can't see it. It
Yeah,
doesn't
it
exist.
doesn't exist.
Right?
So I got my, thank God for Milwaukee impact tools at home, and I'm zipping things off. I get the original battery out pretty quick, hand that to the wife, and I lift up the Optima and I sit that in there, and I realized that I needed a reverse lug to make it work at all nicely.
Right.
So positives and all that are all over towards the fender. And anybody that's put a battery in a JK knows those cables are like this long.
Yeah, the terminal lugs are tiny.
So at this point, she goes and retrieves me wire cutters, and I'm cutting zip ties and moving harnesses over because I just want it off the stump and my windows up at this point, and I'm hoping the whole time. Like,
What time do you think this is? Because we left around like 9.
It's solidly dark at this point.
Okay.
So it's probably 10:30 at this point, and so I finally like pull the cable with everything I got, and I just over the lug.
Oh no.
And I put the negative on. I had unhooked the winch to get it to reach. I had unhooked my brake controller wire for it to reach. And I put it on there, and it fires right up. And I was like, thank you.
So
It was
it was 10:30. Amy falls. Yeah, I totally believe this. Right after a long day, we all can relate.
Yeah.
Of like you're hosting. You know what I mean? You're getting ready to host the party. You're hosting the party.
Yeah.
It was a warm day. I mean, it wasn't unbearable.
It was
but
actually pretty nice. The breeze
It
was
was,
nice.
it was a nice day, but it was a full day. And
very
now
full
10:30 at night.
The
you're dealing
Jeep's
with it.
kicking me.
And so you started to explain, why didn't you just jump start it?
So way back in the day, before I was here full time, I was driving Chuck Norris when it wasn't Chuck Norris as a daily.
Yep.
And it had the original battery in it as well. And I started up at work, and I went to AutoZone for something I don't even remember now, and shut it off. I came out, and I turned the key, and nothing happened.
Nobody was home.
Nobody was home. And the gauges started doing this.
Yes.
And the Jeep completely geeked out. And I was like,
Those of you who
Why?
are listening can't see us. That was Scott doing wax on, wax off, basically.
And I was like, why are you doing this to me? And we tried jumping. A guy, real nice guy next to me, had jumper cables. Oh, I'm going to come over. I'm going to save you and put jumper cables on your Jeep. And the Jeep told him where to go and how to get there.
Uh-huh.
And I said, nope, that's not working. So I went in and bought a battery, and I borrowed tools, and I changed the battery in the parking lot, and I drove home, and it was okay. And then I had subsequent other people call me after that with real crazy electrical things with their TJs, and I'm like, by the way, is that original battery in that Jeep? And they're like, well, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We'll change the battery. But it started just fine right before this. I know, change the battery. So what happens with Mopar batteries, for some unforeseen reason, is they dead short out of the blue.
Yes.
And when they dead short, there's nothing you can do. You hook up a jumper cable, it's still going to short. And I was thinking that by the time, they've been sold and bought 15 times, that the batteries would change, but obviously not. So
Now, I think it has something to do with the actual, battery construction, right?
Yeah.
As we talk about, I mean, if you look at like, lithium battery technology in our power tools versus the NiCads, and you had, with a NiCad, you had proportional discharge. You know what I mean? It would always discharge. It would almost never fully charge back up, blah,
Yep.
blah, blah, Whereas, and granted, our batteries are not lithium.
no.
But lithium technology, basically, it has a consistent discharge.
It does taper just a touch right at the very end. That's your warning.
That's your and
then
most
it
people
just
are not
done.
aware.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, of that warning. But then it's done, right?
Yep.
So it's
Nobody's home.
and so it's working at a 90+% capacity,
Yep.
and then it's just empty.
Yep.
And I almost kind of
That's
think of
kind
our
of way
batteries
Mopar batteries
seem to
specifically
work. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing. And
So I knew
somebody out there knows better than us why.
I had a hunch that was just a waste of time with the jump pack and jumper cables, and I was just going to.
I just thought maybe you would get it down off the. I thought maybe.
It didn't work with the LJ, so I wasn't even froggy
Weren't even
at that.
trying. Weren't froggy at night.
No.
Pulling the Subaru up and,
No.
and hanging off the fender. Okay.
With the already inappropriate Optima swapped into that because that did the same thing to us a couple years
So
ago.
you trail fixed your wife's Subaru, and
it's still not
you haven't actually corrected it. Okay.
Yeah, she does remind me every once in a while that we should
I was
do that.
honestly thinking about my wife's Impala and the fact that all of the problems we're having may or may not be to the
battery.
inappropriate AGM battery that I shoehorned in there out of a Jeep. So I took an AGM battery that I had
This probably
purchased
should be in my Jeep right now.
that actually is correct to your Jeep, and we shoehorned it into a 2008 Impala. And I'm wondering if that's not my problems because that
Yeah.
AGM is probably. I mean, we did that.
That
big-
was a long time
That was
ago.
that was a 7. That was
So
probably 6 years ago.
To
6,
add
7
to
years.
the ante, though,
Yeah.
on inappropriately keeping batteries around. So my 68 Chevy pickup has a 5.3 swapped into it. I bought a 2000 GMC Yukon XL to tail the motor out of. It sat in the guy's front yard with a dead battery for probably a year.
Okay.
I charged that battery. It came back.
The dead one and
The dead one.
Okay.
It's still in the truck.
No, it's not. The
I
truck
put-
is outside. I passed it on the
Correct.
way in.
I thought about that as I drove that to work this morning.
You,
My
don't
LS was put
understand.
in when my daughter was in, still in the womb.
infancy. Oh, in the womb.
She's going to be 6 in November.
You might want to change that battery now that you talked about it because this
That
just
was
happened
a-
to your JK.
You did this to your JK. Why would you
It
talk?
was-
It'll hear you.
It was an old battery.
It'll hear you. It's not far away.
It was an old battery, and I put it in the truck.
We're gonna hit it with some holy water by the end of the day here, just
It's
so you can
gonna
get
scream.
home.
Gonna have to.
It's gonna scream when we hit it with the holy water.
Oh, and the worst part is I got to go get the kids after work, so it's don't totally get to Sharon's and leave me stranded.
All right, so that was our weekend, and I'll be honest, like there was more to our weekend. Even I rotated tires inappropriately. Obviously,
I went on a train ride on
you
Sunday.
went on a train ride. We did a bunch of things.
Yeah, it was a very full weekend.
But we're gonna have to let that one ride, and we're actually gonna have to talk about recovery, and not just off of the inappropriate tree stomp. A
That's
parking
how
job.
fitting, though.
Oh my gosh. So, folks, we asked you about 3 weeks ago, maybe a little 3 or 4, to send us some recovery stories. And we got a great response. A lot of fun, stories were shared, some pictures. We chose a couple of those to bring to you guys today. I think the Italian Stallion has some of those stories printed out in front of him there.
Yep.
May or may not have some pictures as well, and then Scott and I will obviously
Enthrall you with our own.
right, and for some reason people think that's entertaining, so we'll tell you.
Well, the first one I want to talk about is Daddy Jeep. Daddy Jeep Garage on YouTube. Check it out. Really good episodes that he has on there.
Nice
But
guy.
Super nice guy.
He actually was, I understand, the trail leader on all the on-site Bantam trails this year.
Yes.
So, and he has been doing that for years, but that's obviously where you can see him in action.
And I believe it has a tie-in to what we just got done talking
It
about.
does. So it was very fitting because he sent this to us directly after the episode where we talked about cutting down your tree.
Okay.
And he said it seems to fit in with that episode too well to not share. They were having a get-together at a house. Beverages may have been consumed.
Liquid courage.
But they were getting the fire going, and he had a 60-foot tall dead ash tree behind his shop. Mm-hmm. Bunch of buddies around, figure what could go wrong.
And they have a chainsaw.
So he had a small opening between a couple large cherry trees
Of
where he
course.
needed to drop it.
Mm-hmm.
Put a notch in the tree, went ahead and dropped it in that perfect space. However, it
As-
got caught up on all the branches.
Yes.
Didn't actually drop all the way.
Oh dear. Widowmaker.
So just throw a rope around it, pull it down with one of the trucks that were there. No problem. That didn't work. Decided to tension on it with a truck and take back
Oh gosh.
take a cut a few feet up the tree, drop it down, and pull it back down with a truck. No problem. Well, that didn't work either.
Oh no.
So now the tree is cut twice. It's still just sitting
When
there.
they ask why men die sooner than women,
Yeah,
Right?
This
that's
is
true.
why. This is what we do.
So we have more trucks. Let's just hook a strap to
Absolutely.
the next piece.
Just hook it up
Just
to another piece
more
of equipment.
horsepower will fix it.
Horsepower.
And then he tries to pull in another direction while still keeping tension with the first truck. No problem. That still didn't work either. Things are now starting to get sketchy. Just now.
Just now.
No, it was
Just
sketchy
now.
a while ago.
This is his barometer of sketch.
Sketch is just rising as we go on.
It's just now getting
Because
sketchy.
now we're desperate. Beverages were consumed, and there's a chainsaw, and trucks are
Oh,
involved.
and there's absolutely somebody like me who's goading and giving unhelpful commentary.
Oh,
on the process.
completely.
So
Just
he said
stirring the pot.
his shop is on one side and the power line that feeds the entire town is on the other.
Oh. Awesome.
So he's got to just pull a little harder with truck number 2.
Uh-huh.
3 straps to this truck to keep it on the parking lot of the store next door instead of the grass.
Oh, gosh.
One of which is a kinetic strap. And I'm going to quote this out. I back it up a few feet and give it a go. Nothing happens. Maybe I'll hit it a little harder.
Always.
Nothing.
Always we do.
Now what? The
Back it
neighbors.
all the way up and hit it like you mean it.
So the neighbors are all looking out their windows now.
Of
course they
course.
I guess I'll give it a little more slack and go one more time.
Of course, that's what I just said.
This time I feel the straps get tight and release.
Uh-huh.
As I stopped and looked back, that 3-foot chunk of tree goes rolling by. It traveled more than 40 feet before it touched the ground and rolled right past my truck, dragging 90 feet of strap with it. Maybe
You have enough time to think of it as it passes you. And you're like, this was bad choices were made.
he says maybe the chainsaw and adult beverages don't go together so well after all. Oh well, it is time for another beer to celebrate our success. I hope you get a laugh out of this one.
Oh,
I want to know where the tree ended up. He left me guessing. Is it in the store's window at this point?
That's what I'm thinking. It's at the store.
It's in the street.
yeah.
There's a 3-foot, chunk of tree sitting at the storefront, and
Put
you're
a,
just
put
like,
a for sale sign on it, say it's for Christmas.
that's right.
Right.
I'm just, I'm not involved in this. And that one is Mr. Brilla.
Yeah,
right?
so we have a very lengthy story. I'm going to try to summarize it somewhat. But they were doing the Jeep Jamboree. The trail was called Hotel Rock.
Okay.
There's a whole bunch of information about the permits that were required to be on there, and that it was actually off an abandoned highway called Old Utah 95.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. As they approached Comb Ridge from the north, overlooked the route. They were showing off a view to their client. They were actually taking somebody on tour.
Sure.
We were approached by 2 guys who looked really out of place. Nice, young, clean-cut guys looking very scared, and one was holding a 2-foot-long pine plank. At first, I thought they were kind of like some kind of missionaries.
Real quick, did Joe contextualize what vehicle they're in? Usually he's pretty
I
good.
think
He does.
He does. We're just not there yet.
Yes.
Okay, we're not there
At-
yet.
at this
'cause
point,
I
they
think
just
I've
got
heard this
approached.
story. I've heard the story.
At this point, they just got approached. They don't know what
Yeah.
those guys are doing out there in the middle of
Uh-huh.
nowhere, Utah. It turns out they were looking for help. One of the guys had borrowed his mother's minivan, and they took it out for a drive. This sounds like a Neil thing.
drive.
In a display of totally bad decision making, they decided to try Old Utah 95. They only got a few hundred feet down in the trail and realized that they had made a horrible mistake.
This mistake was a while ago.
It was a minute ago.
As they came across a pile of rocks that the minivan
That was
wasn't-
about when they put the seat buckle on and hit drive.
Yes.
And he goes, they came across a pile of rocks that the minivan wasn't going to get across without wings. They turned around, but in the process of doing so, buried the minivan in a sand flat. They were stuck.
Very.
Some campers nearby offered them a piece of wood to see if it could help dig themselves out. No luck.
Nope.
Both our Jeep and Drew's had a winch, and we had only just installed ours, so we were more than willing to try it out.
Absolutely.
Yeah, where do you hook it to?
So Drew continued the tour with his client on a trail that ran along the crest of Comb Ridge, while Linda and I went down to the minivan with the 2 kids gleefully following behind us on foot. At first, we thought we could employ our mat tracks and let the minivan pull itself out. No luck. The sand was too packed.
Can't be that too easy.
Yeah, and the angle was too steep. All they accomplished was grinding off some of the nubs on the mat tracks. So on to plan B.
Because it was I've seen that in the winter.
Yeah, that was they were machining that.
Yeah, all the
I'm gonna let
go
you.
pedal.
I'm gonna let you do this paragraph because I think you could do the accent.
Oh no! First of all, we know that I can't do the accent.
That's the point.
I got called out by one of our vendors for
Oh, no.
doing it.
What if we just wore an inappropriate accent now present?
Yeah. Well, he said, why? Oh my God, folks! I'm so sorry. I'm going to take a brief moment. My wife is walking through the building.
And she's leaving.
Oh, she left. I got so excited. I'm going to bring her on the studio one of these days. She doesn't listen to the podcast at all, but I'm going to bring her on, and we're going to have a full conversation about Jeeps and Jeep life at the earliest
Just not today.
possibility. If you could see her face right now, and she's doing like the cutthroat thing.
She's spraying a hose at us at this point.
Not helpful. Not helpful. All right. One of the kids, Jackson, asked what he could do. I pulled out.
Rewind the tape and go back before you got in the minivan.
I pulled out an entrenching tool from the back of the Jeep and did my best Clint Eastwood imitation. Jeffrey.
You got to say it.
Jeffrey.
You got to say it now.
I can't. I can't even. I'm terrible. Because I know I sound like it in my head, but I know that when it comes out, it's not okay. It's not okay. There's two kinds of people in this world. Those with guns and those who dig. You dig. I handed him the e-tool. I thought he was going to cry, as apparently he thought I was armed. Oh, Joe is like the nicest dude. He's armed with a camera is the most severe thing he's going to have. We dug out the minivan from behind and then maneuvered the Jeep behind them to pull it free from the sand. Oddly enough, the minivan actually had a rudimentary recovery hook on both bumpers.
Oh, got lucky there.
Which made the job easier. About that time, Drew showed up with his client, and since he was in the front of the minivan, we used the winch to pull it out of the sand and onto a more stable part of the trail.
Here's some of the pictures. So that was right after they tried the mat tracks, and that must be the part where he is needing a change of pants because he's shoveling.
Well, and at this point, both kids were near tears as they thought they'd be spending the night atop Combe Ridge in a buried minivan or walking back to Blanding in the dark. Drew continued on to Blanding. Linda and I accompanied the kids in the minivan back up the trail to a tamer stretch of gravel road that also led back to Blanding. They kept saying thank you over and over, calling us their angels. They became friends with Jackson via Facebook, and he was a really nice kid. Both he and his friend were actors working on theater productions in New Mexico. Jackson had his share of problems with some addictions, but got himself back on track, landing a good job in Durango, Colorado. We'd hoped to get back together with him following the year. We found out the jamboree, but sadly, he did not make it in a car accident in Durango. We weren't able to save him the second time. Oh, well, that was a really fun time until we got there. But that is life, unfortunately.
And so this is a picture with the kids on their jamboree.
Yeah. And look at that minivan. The Baja rig
the Kia
that
Baja
it is.
edition.
The Kia Baja edition.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. That is the beauty of recovery in general. It's highs and lows like you wouldn't believe.
Yep.
I actually did bury a minivan once.
Of course you did.
I did.
That's
And-
why I knew that was fitting.
Yep. Unfortunately, best friend of mine who passed as well, and I took his mother's minivan and buried
Never.
it in a very public space.
With sand?
Possibly with sand. And
No idea what you're talking about.
and so at that point in time, and we were 16-ish. And
Sounds like the appropriate age to bury something
to
there.
bury a minivan. And you know what? I still to this day, just the smiles we had as we just hit the whoops in the minivan, which we should not have been behind ourselves, was, you know, I will forever live on that one. You know, the smiles and like I can remember the creaks and groans of that 80s, 90s plastic as we, you know, just ramrodded that independent, you know, suspension over things. Buried it really good in sand as well, so I can totally appreciate what Jackson experienced. And we had to hike out about, I don't know, a mile or so.
Yep.
To find his mom, and we had to own up.
Oh boy.
We had to own up because I was her van buried in the sand, and she was super cool about it. She had done some stuff in her life, and she was like, "Okay, here's what we're gonna do." And that was, you know, pretty early on as far as a vehicular public space. You know, I made a bad choice, and you had bottle jacks and boards and air pressure.
Way
and,
more prepared than most moms.
she was a tough woman, single mom, 2 boys. She did some stuff in her life,
Yep.
you know, and she had go-karts and mini bikes and all that kind of stuff. She was like, "Psh, as long as you guys are safe, here's how we're going to get it unstuck. And it was awesome, you know. But that was not exactly my story I prepared for today, but that is a great tie-in because I've been there, done that. You, sir, recovery, thoughts? Thoughts, feelings, concerns?
The important part with all this is that I was very timid and not usually didn't take risk unless I had a complete out. Because I also off-roaded inappropriate vehicles, but I always went very fast through whatever was and had a planned hard spot to get to that I could get to. Because after one of our school dances, we took the S10 through a side yard or field. There was this track with lots of mud, and I had cleaned it really nice, and I destroyed. It was so muddy, like mud was falling off the truck. But I was going way too fast for it to get stuck.
Okay.
But probably the best getting stuck stories involves my wife and her Dub J that she had. Oh. And she, it was really comical because back in the day, she used to be like, "Oh, Grand Cherokees."
She was too good for a Grand Cherokee.
Sticker. Oh, those are soccer mom.
Those are
cars.
soccer mom Jeeps.
And then she got one, and she realized really quickly that it actually wasn't that bad, and it had 4-wheel drive, and it had the Jeep spirit intact, and
solid axles, and
yep. And we were taking out my my LJ that is now Chuck Norris quite often, and you know, we were at that age, no kids and all that stuff, where it was fun to go out and wheel.
Had a little 2.5-inch lift on it, some 30s to 31s, right?
Yep, and Amy's had likewise, you know, 2 inches. It was really not built a lot, but just enough to go out and have fun.
Well, that's what I was talking about. But you're right, both of them were.
She was on 30s.
Of course she was.
Yeah.
That's whatever.
So,
Browns.
I know.
Do brown.
Sorry.
Brown. All right.
I think I was on 32s at that time. I like, you know, weird tires. I'm sorry.
No. You? Odd things? What?
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway, and at that time, you know, she had already wedged it between 2 trees and had barking door handles and all this sort of stuff, and she had gotten it stuck. We had to do the Jeep behind him and front of with the strap underneath a Jeep to hook to it, kind of thing, because no toe points and that stuff. And guys were up and we're like, you know, we should go out wheeling, and you're like, I'm game, but you weren't dressed appropriately.
I wasn't dressed appropriately,
as so often you're not. And you had pretty shoes and a pretty hat and a pretty shirt, if I remember.
I believe that is. And we were on Jennifer and I were on a date.
Yes.
And we were going to double date. We were going to go wheeling with you.
Yeah.
Because my wife.
Because we don't know how to date appropriately.
Correct. We don't know how to do anything. Anything appropriately, like social norming, you know?
Yeah. Our method of dating was she was in that vehicle, I was in this one, Neil was with me, Jen was with her. You know, not spending time at all together.
We're having a good time that way.
Yeah, it was great. And I remember like, oh, we're not going to get stuck, so it'll be fun.
We were as many of these situations go, which I'm sure was the guys in both the tree going down and
best
the
laid
minivan.
plans.
Best laid plans,
Yes.
right? We have every intention for things to go smoothly.
And I remember, I think we were leading, and at some point we didn't see, I think, headlights because it was starting to get dark or was
Very dark.
And we go back looking for the girls, and I hear, we're stuck. And
true.
I think we tried pulling it, but, you know, small TJ, big Dub J. It was not, but it would move a little bit. So
It was
Neil
lacking traction.
Neil goes right to, well, I'm going to stand on the back bumper and bounce. But I don't want to get my shoes or my shirt dirty. So next thing I know, he's running around barefoot and shirtless in the woods. And he's on the plastic back bumper with a little shelf and holding onto the roof rack.
Holding on the roof rack.
And it got a little traction.
It got a little traction.
So he's like, if a little bit is as good, a lot's better. So he's on top of the Dub J on the roof rack at some point. I don't completely know how he gets up there because it's dark.
Shimmy. It's the same way that I get into the Chuck at this point. I just kind of float into Jeeps is what the reality is.
And he got her out.
We did.
And then we wheeled the rest of the night pretty boring.
Yeah, but that but the shirtless, shoeless
Totally happened.
half naked
Yeah.
wheeling on the back of your wife's Jeep.
Yep. And she buried that thing a couple more times in that same trail. I remember there was one little wet spot we had to go around and out, and she went wide, and it was a lot deeper there. And we looked back, and it's like up to the headlights.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't remember if I had to like go down the hood and stick my arm, up to here in water and find the tow hook and hook on and bang her around the corner. That poor Jeep. It went places. Many stocked up J's never get to go.
Why is there so many recovery stories going with Scott though? Never Scott's Jeep.
Never my Jeep.
Never his Jeep.
So
but everybody that goes with him.
There is one time.
goes with
well, two times. 2 times it was me. One, I knew I was going to do it, and we were in that same track, and there was a spot where a loader had gone through and dug deep trenches, and I literally went around and was like, will you pull me out? Yep. Okay, let's hook the strap to the Jeep right now because this is not going to end well. And it was in the back of the Jeep, and I hit it as fast as I could, and I slid a good distance on the pumpkins, and then it stopped, and all 4 tires were just spinning.
High centered at that
and
point.
we pulled it out. The other time was there was this big dip, and I hit it a little hard. And I like front bumpers with angles, as we already talked about at the party. I was trying to use it on the stump as well.
As a ramp.
As a ramp, and it does work to then have it sit on the one side of the hole, and the back bumper, which is stock, to sit on the other side, and all 4 tires to spin.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the 2 times I got the LJ stuck. And once on the belly pan.
I know that we had a really cool recovery situation when I went with you on Tom's trails.
Oh,
We'll have to
tree.
have Davey put the video in later.
Oh,
But
my.
there was actually a large branch stuck
yeah.
up through in the tire, behind the tire.
Sure, with yours, with the Gladiator.
With the Gladiator.
It was perfect spot.
that wasn't a
if you-
branch. That was a telephone pole.
It might as well have been.
If you would have had a Daniel 35 and snapped a rear axle shaft, you actually would have needed that stick.
That's how
how
we
you get the Jeep out.
That's how you get the Jeep out. That's how we used the wheel on a.
And
on a
everybody
TJ.
was real excited. And at this point, I'm like, "There's a tree. We're gonna pull it out. It's gonna be okay. There's brake lines. It's already there. Damage has been done. We're just gonna deal with it.
And nothing was damaged.
No, it was literally that where it like did this underneath.
But
the
we
Jeep
had
and
to
missed
use
everything.
a winch to get it out because none of us could pull it out.
It was in
so
there.
wedged.
Yeah, and that was really funny. Is everybody's like, "Wow, we're gonna get it out of there." I was like, choke a strap on it and use a winch.
You know what is amazing is how excited people get about
my God.
recovery, right? And
especially winching.
Yes.
well, anytime we get to use our winches, right?
Yeah.
Because that's for the average consumer, that's just a $500 to $1,000 toy hanging on the front of their Jeep.
Yes.
They definitely want to get the use out of it, and I just people get so excited about it, and at this point,
we've seen some things, and
at
been
this point,
some
I'm just
places.
kind of tired. I'm like, God, I did it again. I just why do I
Yeah.
keep doing this to myself?
Yeah, at this point, it's just autopilot. Like, yep. Somebody gets stuck, we just go get the strap. Nobody talks to anybody. Hook up the winch.
As far as I'm concerned, you haven't done a real recovery until you've had 2 different lines hooked up to the same Jeep going opposite directions.
You know, that is the reality of the situation. There are some people who do just the most phenomenal or as we've talked about in the past, prepare to self-recover. People who have to dig a, to actually you have to spend a sizable amount of time and dig an anchor point.
Yeah.
And then bury it back. And then once you actually get yourself out, then you have to dig that
That's what
anchor
high
back
lifts and
out.
spare tires are for.
Without question, right? And so I remember, in the 90s, reading these adventurers who had done these epic adventures through the 60s, 70s, and 80s across, obviously from say Alaska down to the tip of South America or across Africa, and these individuals were prepared and did have to do recoveries with multiple lines or pull points and anchor points, and I'm like, that's cool recovery, you know. And I think the big thing, all the fun aside, when it comes to recovery, it's about being calm and patient and really trying to see the process through.
Yeah.
Versus just getting all hyped up and panicking.
Well,
Too many people panic.
That's the one time Scott and I were doing it. Oh, go ahead and read this one.
Chuck, pulling Abrams tank out of the gumbo a few times. You'll discover how much recovery sucks. Mud is from Satan.
That's funny.
10 minutes of fun for 10 hours of
I remember in
cleanup.
JP, some of the stories, they do a little military section on the recoveries, and some of the stuff they got stuck. Oh my goodness.
And honestly, and again, from the military recoveries, it was in those same editorial pieces was like, who let these people drive? You know what I mean? Like the people telling the story is going like, I had to recover these
made.
Abrams. Like where were they driving? Why were they driving so many times into the muck? You know, avoid that. Go a different direction.
I remember those big, huge trucks, and they're on huge tires, and it's buried to the center of the hub. And you're like, yeah, that's going to be a challenge to get that one out.
Oh my gosh, get the heavy equipment out.
Yeah.
Well, in the back to the panicking thing, Scott and I were at Southington, and there was somebody who got wedged up on rocks.
Mm-hmm.
Scott hooked the winch up, was starting to drag him back, and the way he was positioned, it was going to roll the Jeep.
Yeah, we need multiple straps.
We just stopped calmly, reset, put a strap off at a 90-degree bend from that, and kept him on the rocks as Scott winched him backwards. But everybody else was like, "Oh my
Their
God!"
hair was on fire.
Yeah, you're gonna roll him. He's gonna do this. You're gonna do that. No,
Just
no.
Time out. Calm. Let's woo-saw, and have the right equipment. And that's, I mean, that's a big piece of it, folks. I mean, when I've done some
sometimes
hairy...
you have to tell people to shut up sometimes, too.
Yeah, that's true. That's absolutely true. And say, hey, you know what? Can I help you? Because I will help you, but you have to let me help.
Yes.
You know? And that's a really important piece. And for those of us who have... unfortunately, more experience than others in getting stuck and recovering. There is something that experience that we bring to the table, and then oftentimes it is about having the right tools for the job,
or being resourceful when you don't.
Being exceedingly resourceful. And then also, doing your best to, once you're at that point and you are in a position where you're actively, that you're going to get stuck, it's being, how am I being mindful of the environment when I am stuck? Am I tearing up trees? Am I tearing up people's property? Am I tearing up my own Jeep? You want to ideally recover or be recovered in a manner that, doesn't destroy the space around you.
You get there, but you don't jump to that.
And unfortunately, I look at the world and I think like, oh, everybody has these experiences, unfortunately, I have.
That's why those minivan kids were so scared.
Yeah.
And at some point in the birthday party, my kids got the Power Wheels out, and they were doing inappropriate climbing of things with the Jeep.
It was wonderful.
And they were driving through the splash pond. It was awesome.
And we looked at them and said, they're just doing that because we do it.
Absolutely. The first time one of the kids hit the splash pond, and like some of us as adults kind of cringed and we're like, "Oh, that's how the splash pond gets ripped."
And it did.
Oh dear. Well, and then we're like, okay, well, we can't fault them though, because I mean, we literally do that on just a full scale.
They've been doing that since they were infants.
Yeah, we had them strapped into car seats. And I'll just say this piece as well. I love the fact that when I'm on on the interwebs creeping, people are like, can I take my kid?
Yeah, when is old enough?
When is old enough to wheel? And I was like, I don't.
He's in a car seat.
He's in a car seat
with a seatbelt.
It's got a roll cage around him. I mean,
Aiden was probably 6 months old or less.
Yes.
when he went wheeling for the first
Don't
time.
take him on the Mammoth Trail.
And which we may or may not talk about at some point in time. But yes, I mean, there is an appropriate time and place and what to do with the kids. And then, I mean, as we just kind of feed into the recovery, and I think I've told this story before, I got myself stuck wheeling Southington off-road at one point in Chuck before he was Chuck and baby Chuck.
Yeah.
And my son, who was like 2, you know, and I'm out wheeling it with him, and he had napped through a portion of it, and I remember
They get the best sleep when you're on road.
So I'm like trying to hold his head while I'm off roading, you know. So I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna like
No,
give
they're
him
tough.
whiplash. No, they're tough. They bounce. And but we went and we found this precarious place that had absolutely no business being in, and buried that LJ up to the axles. And then I'm sitting there rooster tailing, and mud flies up and like covers the side of his face. And I was like, oh my god, your mom is going to just kill me. I'm going, and. You know, and I mean, that's when he starts getting recovered. You know what I mean? At that point in time, I don't remember if it was Dad, if it was Greg, if it was whoever, and we had to get behind and pull kinetic rope, snatch block, or not, you know, whatever it was, winch, and get unstuck. It actually could teach you a lot about life, honestly. And I actually, I will leave. I have so many recovery stories.
Yep.
I guess I will leave the one with Baby Jeep. So I had a 95 YJ, and before I built it up, we used to call it Baby Jeep.
We still called it Baby Jeep afterwards.
Yeah, that's true. We did, even though it was the
On
biggest
35s.
YJ. Yeah, as everything should be at a minimum of 35s. The reality situation. It was in the winter in a farmer's field. I actually slid off the road. It's something I do.
Sounds vaguely familiar.
That makes me sad.
It does.
A couple times this year.
Anyway, continuing on. Let him tell a story.
You know, I just
Mostly a
wonder
trend,
if
though.
other people have what is it that I'm doing? Because I have some just gnarly winter driving experience stories.
Well, distance does do that.
Distance. I drive a lot.
It's
drive
not,
a lot.
It's not
I drive a
distance. I
lot.
was driving to Erie every day, which is about the same distance, and I didn't have
I was
those
trying
It
issues.
made me
you know.
feel better when we use distances.
I was trying. I really tried there.
Anyways, I'm driving Baby Jeep, and I don't know. I end up in a
Stuff
field, plump into a field, you know, and here's the real kicker of the recovery. The fun, despite the ability to self-recover and whatnot, is when you're able to call that person in your life and be like, hey, I need help. Or that person who's going to take their shoes and shirt off and be like, yep, I'm going to jump in there anyways. And I was able to call my sister and my wife at the time, and she brought out her 97 TJ, which was far more equipped and built than Baby Jeep was. And she crawled that thing right down into the little field, hooked onto the winch, righted Baby Jeep. In the process, battery cables had come undone or something, I don't know. So I'm under there, rigging stuff back up. She winches me out, and snow's blowing, and it's just a fantastic character building experience. And it bonds you with the people that you're doing it with, so long as it's an appropriate process and you haven't damaged anybody's property and there's, nobody's injured. It is, like Joe and Linda, with that young man, they were able to establish a good, heartfelt experience with that person.
Yep. Once he knew he wasn't going to get shot.
Once he knew he wasn't going to get shot, that Clint Eastwood wasn't going to give it to him. And I always tell people, anytime that I talk to, have the opportunity to talk to customers on the phone, I always say, we don't tell stories about when things went right. Nobody tells, the story about that time that you had an average to good steak. They tell stories about like exceptional or about terrible, and sometimes the terrible can be very fun and rewarding as it is. So, folks, if you have recovery stories or you'd like to see or know more about ours, make sure that you reach out to us and share that. Call in, have that conversation, stop and see us at a show. We're happy to tell those stories and be part of that with you as well. we're going to take a quick break, do a commercial thing, then a transition, product spotlight. Hey, Jeep family, we hope that you're enjoying this content, and we want to make sure that you head over to sfj4x4.com, find some of this cool merchandise, give us a call at our facility, 440-813-3663. Option 1. And make sure that you tune in to our live podcast every Monday at 10:19 a.m. and check out our updates on YouTube on Tuesdays and Fridays. Until then, Jeep on.
Put your headphones on.
And now it's time for our product spotlight.
Now it's time for
Trail Spotlight.
Oh my goodness. Were adult beverages consumed in the making of that transition?
No, I had my child helping record.
That was his kid.
I
That was
know.
super cute, first of all. I
The
really
end-
appreciate
The end was great.
that was
about
the
the
end
middle.
was great, right? When we could hear the kid.
Yes.
But
I heard he was very excited.
which one was that?
That was Xander.
That was Xander. Well, thank you, Xander, for your participation in our participation in our transition. I'm trying to recover from. We had the opportunity. We sat down with Northwest Jeepcast, and they always claim they do all their transitions live on air, and they do a get ready to rumble type thing. And I appreciate their transitions. They're not half as good as Jeffrey's. If that doesn't
biased.
wake you up, I don't know what will.
Yes.
All right. So, as Jeffrey's new transition, if you understood what was happening, instead of a product spotlight, which we really do enjoy doing, and will continue, we thought we'd shake things up a little bit and talk about trails. Because while my favorite trail is to the mall or the ice cream, store in my big overbuilt Jeeps, yours might actually be the practical application of going off road. So, Jeep as the mothership understands this and has does their best to support the trail rated opportunities that your Jeep can present to you. And obviously they've kind of indulged people with their badge of honor process, which I think will be a great opportunity to talk about in the future about those trail badges of honor. I don't know if you know anything more about that, Jeffrey, or share.
So they actually have a whole app for Badge of Honor, and you go in, sign in, and what happens is you can actually search by you for where there's trails.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any near us, Jeffrey?
Not immediately close.
The closest is like south of Harrisburg, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
That one, and then Windrock is another one.
Yeah, go south of Windrock. But the one in Harrisburg, which I think we'll have to talk about in the very near future, is actually very intro friendly. If you have a stock Jeep and you're getting into it, that's a great one to add to the side of the Jeep right away.
Well, and that's the nice thing about the Badge of Honor app is it actually tells you the weather for the 10-day outlook or whatever, trail forecast as they call it.
Mm-hmm.
They give you ratings on the trail so you know how hard the trails are.
So it's a lot more than just a badge.
Well, right. And then it is GPS tracking, so you have to check in with that app once you're on one of those badge trails. Once you check in, it registers that you've earned that badge, and then Jeep will actually send you the badge of honor that you can put on the side of your Jeep. So if you ever see those trail badges on the sides of Jeeps, that's how you earn them.
Yeah, super cool process, which we appreciate the mothership supporting our community in that capacity. And obviously, outside of that, there is obviously lots of really cool opportunities, local wheeling, that's appropriate, public lands that have been designated for OHV use.
Well, if you want to hold that up to the camera, you can show that's the map of all the badges, trail locations.
There you go. So
It's
lots
pretty
of trail
spread out.
locations.
It's a lot more spread out than I thought it would be.
Yeah, so lots to do via the app, and then we have, I believe, I believe, I'm fairly certain that Roush Creek is on the
Yes.
Badge of Honor.
Yes.
And I don't know that AOAA is yet.
I feel like it is.
Is it at this point? And it might be at this point, right? Now, so what we're going to do, what piqued my interest. I was cruising the old internets, and of course, I follow all these different groups and people. I'm living vicariously through you while you actually get to use your Jeep. And I see Anthracite Outdoors.
Anthracite is not on here yet.
Correct.
Guys, go on there and recommend it because that's how the trails get on there is from recommendations.
So I believe AOAA is Anthracite Outdoor Adventure Area. It's a property that I've actually had the pleasure of wheeling a few years back. It was a reasonably new property. It's actually not that far from Roush Creek. Roush Creek is the granddaddy, arguably in Pennsylvania, of wheeling parks or opportunities. But AOAA is a up-and-comer and has been a great facility. And when I was there, I certainly enjoyed it, and it was beautiful and picturesque. It's like an old strip mine where they've leveled the top of the mountain. And instead of just letting that turn into a vast wasteland, they've developed trails and like a check-in center and parking and all that kind of good stuff. So very cool opportunity. But what came across my radar was the Mammoth Trail. Now, as in whole, the AOAA is 8,000 acres. I mean, that's just
wrap that around your head for a minute.
correct. We are in the East used to wheeling parks that are maybe 150 to
That's a big park.
300.
Really. Yeah.
And those are pretty good parks that have camping and vendor shows and all that kind of stuff. And so you're getting a handful of trails. And I got to be honest, I love our local trails that we can access more regularly. And they will push into the thousands. But, this is a park that's, here in eastern Pennsylvania at 8,000 acres. And the Mammoth Trail has been recently opened. And this is what I was going to share with you if you're unfamiliar. And we do have we have a buggy in the shop right now that we're dealing with some spark timing issues for the customer. He's a cool Jeep owner. He's got another cool vintage Jeep that I love. And we're kind of working on the buggy at the moment. Started life as a 93 YJ. And this is a trail that's the trail is built for that Jeep.
Yes.
I think that's the only Jeep on property right now that's qualified for this trail.
Yes.
That we're going to say that again. The buggy that we have is the only Jeep on property, which if you've been to our space, has a lot of Jeeps on it,
There's a lot of Jeeps here.
is qualified for this trail. And so I'm going to
including our own Jeeps.
including our own Jeeps.
Yeah. We can't go.
We are not allowed.
Nope.
And so I'm going to read through the user requirements just because I think they're fun, and this is what we're going to kind of leave you with. Again, the idea of recovery and prepare to self-recover. You're not even allowed to self-recover. You have to recover here.
There's a separate recovery trail.
There is a dedicated recovery trail.
And these trails are locked. You go on, you basically get approved. They give you a key, you unlock it, you drive through, and you lock it behind you.
Yep. So I'm going to read this to you. This is fantastic. All visitors to the AOAA that are attempting Mammoth Trail must make prearrangements with AOAA staff prior to coming. That means before you arrive on property, you need to call this number and make prearrangements. Big red bold letters. No exceptions. This is not just show up and try it trail.
Yeah, they don't care if you drove 3 states away.
Nope. You're not getting to do it unless you have pre-registered.
Yep.
Complete, and that's the rule number 1, right? They're going to vet you online, or excuse me, over the phone.
Yes.
Before it's not even online. You have to do it on the phone. They're going to say, "Are you sure that you want to eat this? The world's hottest pepper."
Yes.
They're going to say it 3 times. Complete the online waiver before coming to the trailhead. Everyone must check in at the Welcome Center, and again, that's in the very center of or the beginning of the property. So you're going to go to that property first, the Welcome Center, to purchase a trail pass for the Mammoth Trail
That you've already been approved.
that you had to be pre-approved for. Minimum of 3 vehicles per group.
I love that. There's an actual minimum.
You're not showing up onesie twosie.
Nope.
You got to go with 3 parties.
You got to have a buddy.
One of them can be the support vehicle. Support vehicle must be a full-size vehicle. There's not your side-by-side. This is not your Yamaha R-Max. This is not the Kawasaki Mule. You don't get to do this. You must this is insane. So one has to be a full size vehicle. Absolutely no side by sides, UTVs, ATVs, or motorcycles for the support vehicle. So one of three must be full size, no matter what. And AOA staff will do a vehicle inspection before you go on the Mammoth Trail. This is to make sure that the vehicle meets the requirements for the trail. AOA reserves the right to refuse access to the Mammoth Trail. So you've already called, you've already gotten approval. You had to go to the welcome center, and now because you are a bonehead and didn't bring a qualified support vehicle or
You're out of
grouping,
there.
you're out. They're serious. All right. One person in the group will be responsible for the entire group. That person will be the trail leader.
No ifs, ands, or buts.
It's not me. I'm just there to
not
have a
me
good
either.
time. It'll be me because I'm just bullheaded enough. But
Jeff. It's always Jeff.
Yeah.
then he gets us in trouble.
That's
All right.
true, but we can blame him later.
Then we can blame him though.
That's totally.
But did you die?
But, oh my God, it
And
sounds
he's
like my wife.
And he's responsible then at that point, so it's okay.
But did you die? But is your belly full? This is the response. But did you get to sleep? I mean, I guess I slept. I was 45 minutes. My head fell out the window, but yeah, I guess I got a nap time in. All right, trail leaders will be issued a key to the Mammoth Trail access gate. Once all vehicles are through the gate that are attempting the Mammoth Trail, the trail leader, again in giant red bold letters, must close and lock the gate behind you. Any support vehicles entering the extraction gates must close and lock the gate behind you.
So you're literally splitting up at this point.
You're splitting up. One down the recovery trail and theoretically two on the Mammoth.
Yep.
This is to keep unwanted vehicles off the trail
And to lock you in.
and
You're trapped. You're
You're
going
done.
through the trail.
The extraction trail must be kept open, not the gate, but the actual, the
So when your
bypass
recovery vehicle doesn't work, they
at
can
all
come get you.
times. Please park support vehicles along the side and leave room to get by. That's
Yeah.
that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
And again, they're going to reiterate no side by sides, UTVs, ATVs, or
If you
motorcycles
didn't read it the first time.
on the Mammoth Trail or the extraction trail.
Yep.
Any deviation from this, you will be removed from AOAA.
And I think you have a time where you're not allowed back. They remember, I think.
I think they remember. If you ask any of our friends at Southington Off-Road, those who are the support staff there, they remember.
Oh, yeah,
They
they
know who you
remember.
are.
Dwayne's rules?
Yeah, they
Yeah.
know who you are and what you did.
Yes.
No matter what, you think that you're, some yahoo with some duct tape and you got through the trail and,
Yeah.
That's funny. I pulled them out at 3 a.m. to come get me. No, they remember you.
Yeah.
Trail leaders are responsible to contact AOA Trailhead if there is a breakdown and the group will be late returning to the trailhead.
There's an exit time for this.
Cut-off time is 4 p.m. You must start to get off the Mammoth by 4 p.m. to return to the parking lot by 5. Return time is 5 p.m. No exceptions. Trail leader will return the access key to AOA Trailhead by 5 p.m. Failure to return the key will result in fines. They're keeping credit cards on file or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
If you have a breakdown or are going to be late, please call AA Trailhead. Phone number. We have other extraction gates that we can get your hauler into the Mammoth area to pick up your buggy without having to travel back to the parking lot. So here's yet another access trail and gate to recover.
So when you break it and you can't get it off the trail,
This sounds so awesome.
so you're
Let's
taking
just-
your truck and
We
trailer
need to build
to
a
it.
Jeep to go do this. 'cause
Well, that's what I'm thinking. You were responsible. Scott's not thinking the
I'm
same
just
as
looking at
Jeffrey.
all the Jeeps.
You're looking at all the Jeeps. Yes, and we're going to build this in our free time.
Yeah.
yeah.
You're responsible for recovery. You are responsible for the recovery of your vehicle. Absolutely no open toe shoes on the Mammoth Trail. No flip flops.
If they weren't clear the first
They
time.
gave you
That
a
entertains me.
shoe requirement to go wheel your vehicle. This is serious.
Yeah.
All driver and passengers must wear a helmet. All spotters and media are required to wear a helmet. You must supply it.
That's my favorite part. Is that the media? If you have Davey there,
If the
he
savage
has to
is
wear
there,
a helmet.
We're going just so we can shove that baby face into a helmet and have him take pictures. He would
With this imaginary
he would
Jeep we don't own yet.
Stare at me, cold face. This is stupid.
We can mount the camera to his helmet.
Oh boy.
Oh, buddy. Yeah, I see. You know what? I was just thinking Luke Allward, right? Rick Payway can't do the Mammoth Trail with an open-toed Schul rule. That is exactly what I was thinking.
I
And
don't
at
think
the
he
same
owns a
time,
Jeep that would
I don't
do this
think Rick
trail.
cares. You know what I mean? I think that he's going to say that, you know, his CJ2A, you know, Grandpa's Jeep
It
is
doesn't meet the qualifications.
yeah, he's just not going to do it. But I thought the exact same thing, Luke. And all spotters and media are required to wear a high-vis vest when on the Mammoth Trail. AOAA will supply your high-vis.
Not the helmets, though.
Not the helmets. We're not sharing head lice here, folks. We're not no head bugs among us. No spectators on the Mammoth Trail rocks. Do not stand on rocks. This is
Serious.
and then you can view from the sides of the trail. All right, and I'm going to leave you with the vehicle requirements. So
These
for
are
the
intense.
vast majority of our listening community, I'm sorry, you're not getting a badge of honor. You don't get to do the Mammoth Trail. However, we do have a number of good friends and colleagues within the industry who do have buggy-equipped vehicles or are pursuing that part of their life. Here are your requirements. Full roll cage. OEM sport cage is not compatible.
And that right there is what eliminates most of the Jeeps here.
Most of the Jeeps, and I can promise you, and I love any of the sport cage add-ons from Rock Hard, which I think are fantastic.
Don't work for this.
Don't qualify for this. This
Full-
is
full aftermarket.
this is
cage.
the inspection station at your local race, and they're not letting you through.
And I wouldn't be surprised if they don't throw you out for welds and stuff like that if you're not.
I think that there's a possibility that they
Yeah.
could get that picky.
Yeah, I would be completely expecting that.
All right, so let's say full roll cage.
Yep. So that, I'm out right there.
You're out. I'm out. Minimum of a 4-point harness.
If you weren't out before, now you're out.
Yeah.
Yep. Most of us are out. I mean, you're talking a full 4-point. Locked axles, front and rear. They don't indicate.
again.
They don't indicate what lockers you need, but I think if you have a limited slip, I think you're
I
out.
don't think
Yep.
you get.
Yeah.
So-
I think they're looking for that switch.
They're
Yes.
looking for or a spool of some. You know what I mean?
Right,
They're looking
yes.
for a true, factual, fully locked application. My Grizzly in the rear of Chuck Norris because I want some street manners. Out. Minimum of 37-inch tall tire.
Sorry, Jeff.
Jeff's gone.
I haven't met any of these qualifications yet.
Sorry, I just had
Is
to.
bug
I might-
deflector on there? Is
No.
I might qualify for a support vehicle, but at this point, I don't even know.
No, I don't think so.
fire extinguisher.
I have that.
Yay!
Yay!
And then the last three are the ones that maybe most of us will get. Tow points front and rear, and winch.
But I have to say though, if all that wasn't clear, that you needed those three things.
I want the rig. I want to see the rig that shows up. Full roll
everything
cage, 4-point.
But no tow points or
no
a
tow
winch
It's the
points.
winch.
Yeah,
And
no
you're
tow
out.
points. You're out.
on the last one.
Or I'd like to also see the vehicle roll cage 4-point locked on 33s.
Right?
You know,
Sorry, Willies.
right. Any type of Willys applied
I
vehicle.
don't think that's
CJ
technically a full size vehicle, sort of.
It is. Don't.
But
do
it's
that.
the size of a side by side.
But just as a support vehicle has to be full size.
That's true.
It's true. Well, because I mean, I suppose a buggy. I mean, if you're really talking about a single-seater buggy,
Yeah, that's pretty small.
that's pretty small.
Yeah.
And just and end this segment as we continue to do some trail reviews because there is some really awesome customers and friends of ours who actively wheel all over the country. I'm constantly getting communicated with from the Southwest or the Pacific Northwest, Eastern, down to the Eastern seaboard, all the trail systems. Simpson Family Jeeps has a fantastic reach across the country with people who functionally want to use your vehicles. And it's something that we are passionate about, despite the fact that we can't get out nearly as often as we'd like to.
Yep.
And we have wheeled a good bit in our life to get to this point. And so I think what makes us unique in the prospect of saying, hey, this is what will benefit you. With that said, I am a huge fan of the Allegheny National Forest, which isn't too far of us, which just this year actually widened their off-highway vehicle eligibility. And I thought it was interesting because they did it specifically based on some lobbying to get side-by-sides or bigger side-by-sides on there. All of our vintage Jeeps fit.
Ooh.
So, I mean, they did it with the intention to get the side-by-sides on there, but
some of those are huge.
But yeah, they're
Compared
up
to
to
a
they're
Willys.
a 64-inch outside width.
So can we just identify as a Roxer and go?
Absolutely. I think that a CJ2A on 205 7515s tools down that trail just the same as
I
a
don't see anything wrong with that.
yeah, right. So opportunities prevail. Folks, I hope you enjoyed that new segment on the trail review. This was a super fun one. I want to hear, where have you wheeled recently? I know Luke and his father were out east as well, doing that part of the country. Where has everybody else been? Joe Harper's been traveling around the world. Chuck obviously has submitted a video just recently, and then he and his wife wheeled Bantam. I know that a lot of our good audience is out actively using the Jeep. Let us know where you've been and where do you want to go. Until next time, Jeep family, 10:19 a.m. on Mondays, your favorite streaming podcast, listening device, platform, whatever, and YouTube. We are the I Speak Jeep podcast. Jeep on.
Jeep on.